Now I'm going to drop my blade down before we plug in the saw. Loosen the lock knob, crank the blade down. I brought a piece of scrap material over here, and this is what I'll be cutting, some chipboard. And I want to have the blade set up to where it's just coming above the board here. And then I'll lock that down. That way there's not too much blade exposed. Now the first time you start your saw, you may hear a little noise off of the blade and the guard right here, or the throat plate. The throat plate is a zero clearance throat plate, and the first cut on it is actually made with the blade that's on the saw. In fact, you may even see some of those little red shavings inside your saw when it was shipped. And that's because your throat plate insert is a blank before it's installed in the saw. They put it on and raise the blade up through the saw. If you ever use a dado blade on your saw, you'll do the same process. And when you do that, you'll bring your fence over and lock it over your throat plate. It's often good to have the miter gauge come over and be over the other side, just to hold your throat plate down and bring the blade up through it. That was what was done at the factory for your zero clearance. And again, you'll repeat that process if you ever use a dado blade or make another zero clearance throat insert. So now that I've got the blade down to the right height, I'm ready to put on my safety glasses. Hearing protection if you're using that in your shop. Anytime that I have the saw unplugged, I'll have the cord up here so that way I know that it's unplugged. I'm not going to trip on the cord. Now I'm ready to plug it in. That means that the saw is hot and it could start at any time here. So let's get the power on. And you want to use a good heavy extension cord to power up your saw or plug it directly into the wall. I've got that set up. I'm going to bring my fence over and I'm going to line it up here on the saw and make a 2-inch cut. I'm going to line it up with our mark that we had set up here before and spot a 2-inch cut. Locking this down, we'll end up using our push stick to push the board through, and then we'll come back and we'll actually make a measurement on the board that we've cut here. So let's power it up and go. This should be exactly 2 inches if we've made our measurements right, but if it's not, that's not the end of the world. What I'll do right now is I'll just spot check it very quickly with my tape measure. Boy, that looks dead on with my tape measure, but I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to go ahead and grab a caliper and measure that. And you can use a precision measuring device of just about any kind. I happen to have this one around the shop, and I'll open that up and make a measurement. Boy, and I'm pretty darn close here. I'm just a little over 2 inches there. And what I can do now is I can go through and fine-tune the saw, actually fine-tune the fence scale to match. When you start this process, make sure that the pointer tab is centered in the middle of these tabs, and that way when you make your adjustment you can come over and get it spot on. So we're just a little over, and I'm going to take it over just a little bit right there. You may have to do this process a few times. You're going to do it at least twice, once on the right side of the blade and once on the left side of the blade using this scale. That way you've adjusted both sides. So now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to recheck it and see what it reads. All right, I'm going to check this with the caliper again. And boy, that is spot on. So now that we've got the pointer adjusted and we've got it calibrated to make sure that it's dead on, I can trust the scale all the way out each time. So now when I move it to 4 inches and lock it down, it's going to repeat each and every time. And that way I don't have to take out my tape measure and measure to the blade every single time. Now that that side is set, we'll lift the fence up, we'll bring it over to this side. And we're going to repeat that process, and we're going to go through and adjust the left-hand scale to make sure that it's centered as well. Check it real quick here. All right, we are dialed in.